It's this all or nothing mindset. I'm either all on 135%. I'm either gunning it. I'm either pushing as hard as I can. I'm either achieving all my goals, or I suck. I'm a failure. I'm never going to amount to anything.
In this episode of the Art of Online Business podcast, I interview Nicole, who is a coach for perfectionists and helps high achievers, could be you, maybe, not pointing any fingers, ditch perfectionism. She helps you discover your little perfectionist Pinocchio that is keeping you from unlocking the success that you know you should have in your business. Listen, guys, this is an awesome interview. She grew up with two parents who worked for Tony Robbins. My gosh, but had a huge crash in her life where she needed her own dad to coach her. And that helped her on her way to where she is now. So you're going to learn in this episode how to break down goals so your inner perfectionist doesn't sabotage you, and even how to identify the subtle signs that show that you indeed have a perfectionist Pinocchio who is slowing you down from achieving what you were meant to achieve. By the way, if my voice is completely new to you, hi, my name's QUÄY.jo. I am the co-host of The Art of Online Business, and I've coached with Rick over the past 3 years inside of his business. It is a pleasure hosting this episode for you, and I hope you get all the motivation and the strategy nuggets out of it that I intend for you to get. Let's go. The fact that you are the queen of perfectionists, the grand mighty poobah perfectionist. Nicole, no, but you really can speak a lot to the established course creator on this podcast and even help them through some things. But I want to know, before I catch up with you too, since we just met like a couple of weeks ago at this podcast event, what was it like growing up with two parents that worked for Tony Robbins? And how did that bring you to where you're at now?
I think that I always call it like it was a unicorn childhood, basically. So, growing up, like I would be attending all of the seminars. We'd be listening to the audio tapes. Both my mom worked logistics for him. So she was running like the backstage and
Okay.
the like, okay, go camera 2 or whatever, like all this stuff back when he was like maybe lucky to have 500 people in the room. So this was like way, way, way back when he was first starting. And my dad was running the ropes courses. So back there was I don't think he runs this program anymore, but there was a program called Life Mastery. And it would be 2 weeks in Hawaii. And we would go, and there would be these huge 50-foot telephone poles. And as part of the experience of the seminar, you'd be climbing the poles, you'd be jumping off and trying to grab a trapeze at the top. My dad was in charge of creating all of those poles and everything like that. He eventually became a coach under Tony's program and then was rising to master level coach. So all of Tony's like high level people, he would be coaching them. So this was like growing up, I like learned all of this information. I learned, watching people having these moments of I'm not enough and then going to I am enough, to make it really broad, but having these just out of body life-changing experiences. And I grew up thinking that was very normal. It's not. Like, it's not a normal situation in the slightest. But for me personally, I was like, I was high off of this stuff. I drank it in like nobody's business. But then when I was in like middle school, even later elementary school age, I started getting really pretty severely bullied, to the point where I was being stuffed into bathrooms. I was being called names.
Oh, shoot.
Literally,
For real?
I would never, for real. And it was a horrific experience. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But something in me snapped one day when I was like shoved into a bathroom stall. I think I locked myself in there to keep people from coming in. And something in me snapped, and it was just like, if you are not what everyone else needs you to be, aka if you're not perfect, then you're going to continue getting hurt. And both physically and mentally. And so in me, that whole like high achiever that was like high off of this life of personal development just completely did a 180. I got really quiet. I stopped talking as much. I stopped being loud. I stopped being the person who people would come to. I mean, like literally, I'd be in elementary school and people would be like, I'm sad. And I'd be like, let's talk about it. Like I'd be coaching them in elementary school. So
let's do the scream together. Let's scream.
It was like I was always in me, really. But it wasn't until really college. I went to one of the best colleges for musical theater because that was my major at the time. And I was just in such a fucking mess. Like, can I cuss on this podcast? I probably should have asked.
I guess you can. I
Okay.
personally don't choose to drop the F-bomb, but like it's
Sounds
probably
good.
okay.
I'll
Probably
roll it
okay.
back. I'll roll it back then.
Now
But
the podcast just got that E rating, you know? Thanks a lot.
only took
No, it's all
Nicole
good.
Baker
Keep going, keep
Holleman coming in here hot. But so basically, I was at this like #1 college for musical theater. I was a mess and a half. And like, I mean, I'm talking like daily panic attacks, not weekly, daily panic attacks. I was
oh,
drinking
shoot.
myself to blackout almost every single weekend. I was so
Okay.
overwhelmed
Yeah.
by rehearsal and I was just procrastinating like crazy. So finally, my teacher sat me down and he was like, you're running yourself into the ground. You're not going to be able to graduate. Like, you need to leave or perform a miracle, point blank. And thank God he did that because it woke me up. And I called my dad, who was a life coach, who had already moved to master level life coach under Tony. And I was like, I need to learn how to implement everything that I've learned since childhood because I knew it all. I just never really implemented it. I never really had that moment where I needed to, right? And that man coached me for like 6 months straight, no holds barred. And long story short is I ended up graduating cum laude, if you're in the Americas. So that was really cool. But it really taught me that like this stuff is important. How you speak to yourself, how you, we call it neurolinguistic programming. The way you speak to yourself is how you act, basically. And that runs everything we do. And so I kind of pretty quickly said goodbye to the performing world and switched into coaching because I always knew that that was something that I wanted to do. Hence the elementary
Wow.
school life coach apparently that I was.
Wow. So I guess the definition of full circle is you.
Quite literally. Oh, thank
Um,
you.
let's rewind a bit though. Was that weird having your dad be your life coach?
I thought it was going to be, but he's really good. Here's an example, for instance. I'll call him
Mhm.
and not so much anymore because now I have a lot of the tools in my back pocket. But when I was in my early 20s, I'd call him and I'd be like, I need dad. And I could
Mhm.
almost hear him putting on the dad hat. And dad hat is, let me listen to you cry for a minute. Let me
Right.
support you. Let me, do whatever. And sometimes I'd call him and I'd be like, I need Coach Baker. And I could again hear him almost putting on a hat and he's like, go. Like, tell me what's up. Like, and it was just like a very different dynamic. So
Mm.
I thought it was going to be weird. However, it ended up being like I was talking to this sounds bad, but I don't mean it in a bad way. Like I was talking to two different people. One was dad, one was coach. And like we weren't really talking about anything so personal where I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about it with my dad. But
Okay.
that's actually a bold-faced lie. That is a bold-faced lie. Let me rewind that. But like we were talking about things like, my limiting beliefs, my like feeling like I always needed to be the best in the room, which is very much a byproduct of growing up under the Tony Robbins
Mm.
culture.
Yeah.
And feeling like I needed to be that high achiever or bust. And I think that a lot of people feel that way, especially people who are, course creators who are, entrepreneurs and at a very high level of success doing so. Like we tend to feel like we need to be the best in the room. And if we're not, then we're like, we got to step it up. And we almost like self-flagellate or hate ourselves in order to get to the next level. And I was doing that pretty constantly. And
Yeah.
he snapped me out of it.
Well, shoot. I feel like in a
Mhm.
moment I need to ask you, how do you not do that now? But I can completely identify, like, as
Mhm.
a course creator, an established course creator. It's like you hit mid six figures, you're mainly speaking or at high level masterminds or even peer masterminds. And people look at you like you know your PG stuff, right? Because I just can't swear. It's not me. So you know your stuff, and
Yeah.
you got to be the expert, and maybe that does tend toward perfectionism. So
It it does. Can I actually speak on that for a second? Because a
I'm
lot of
sure you
people
can.
hear the word perfectionism and they think
Uh,
about, I have an immaculate house. Like everything is going my way. I'm super type A. Like I always have my ish together. And perfectionism is not that. That's a branch of perfectionism, that kind of like OCD type A type person.
oh,
But it is
Educate me.
not.
Educate
It
me.
is not the full spectrum. And this is like my mission in life, is to be like, listen, high achievers, you are perfectionists. You just call it being busy. Let's talk about it. Like, but for high achievers are people who want to be the best in every room, or who are always trying to push themselves to the next level. When they are influenced by perfectionism, it's not always, but when they are influenced by perfectionism, it's they have this certain standard for themselves. Let's say if I don't have like 135% output today, then I failed, or then I didn't push hard enough, or then I didn't
Gotcha.
utilize my work to the best of my abilities today. And that's always from a place of I'm not enough, or I didn't do enough. I didn't push hard enough. Always, always, always the core root of that is I am not enough as is. I'm only enough when I'm pushing at my absolute maximum. And that's where perfectionism comes in for high achievers.
Shoot. Okay. All right. I'm learning a lot new today. So what's at stake? What's at stake? Like we're
Mm.
here, we're interviewing. What's at stake if somebody does not recognize that they are, let's say, suffering from perfectionism, or if they're like, what's at stake here?
I think the biggest thing, and I'm trying to think of a better way to say this, but I'm going to say it in the cheesy personal development way that it is: inner peace. If if
Inner
I'm
peace.
constant inner peace, if I'm constantly getting, for example, I hear this so often. It's like I have so many goals.
Mm.
Maybe it's I want to make 1 million. I want to get a certain amount of subscribers. I want to get a certain amount of people into this group program or that group program. But it's always, I need to do all of those things all at once. And there's this inner urgency that comes out that so often we don't even realize, especially when we've been gunning it at 100 miles per hour for X amount of years, it becomes our norm. So, this urgency, or this, I need to always be pushing forward, I need to always be doing more, it always is leaving us constantly looking in future focused. Now, that's not necessarily bad all of the time. But what this is telling our brain is, if I'm only looking at the future saying, okay, when I achieve X, then I'll be happy. When I achieve Y, then I'll finally be able to step back. When I achieve, Z, then I'll finally be able to hire on that help that I know I'm needing so I don't have to be working 40-hour days, whatever it is. That's impossible. But high achievers, they somehow make it happen. I don't know how. And when we are doing that constantly, looking forward, looking forward, looking forward, our brain is never in the present moment, which is where we find enoughness. I am enough is always coming from the present moment. And that is the fuel of expansion. It's the fuel of feeling like, oh my
Mm.
God, I'm just overflow. I almost view it as like overflow.
Okay.
Um, but it's also being in the present moment. It's having that inner peace, like I mentioned. So, what's at stake here is stop hating yourself so you can finally enjoy the life you're freaking working so hard for. That's what's at stake.
Stop hating yourself so you can enjoy the life that you're working so hard for. The listener, if so you said inner peace, and I'm thinking, have you seen Kung Fu Panda 2, where where he finds inner peace and he learns how to do that skadoosh move against like the
I
bot? Have you seen
can't say I have.
that?
And
Okay,
I'm a
well,
very nervous person, but that I can't say I have.
if so, you the listener, if you're watching or if you want to see what I'm doing, skadoosh finger that the Kung Fu Panda does, you're going to have to go to the website, theartofonlinebusiness.com. And the link is in the show notes, and just watch the video. But Kung Fu Panda 2, there's my plug. And we are not sponsored by whoever creates that movie. I can't remember if it's Disney or Pixar. Maybe they're the
I
same.
think it's DreamWorks. Is it DreamWorks?
DreamWorks. They could be
Might be
the same.
DreamWorks. Oh,
Complete
that's
little
going to
segue.
totally bother me.
You'll figure it out. At the podcast movement conference, and we're going to come right back into what we were talking about in a moment, but at the podcast movement conference where you and I met this other girl who was a conspiracy theorist, and that was her podcast, and she's absolutely crushing it. And so that made me think of her when I thought maybe all of the major networks are owned by the same person. I'm going to give her that idea. So back to the listener. And selfishly, I might ask for myself. I'm kind of wondering, am I a perfectionist? What are some of like the checklists, maybe subtle signs? Because I mean, we're all well read. But what are some of the signs that would let me know that I am actually a perfectionist? Like,
You're giving me an
how might
idea.
okay, what's the idea?
Well, I was like, I should do like an episode or even just like a free offer or something like, here's your checklist if you're a perfectionist, because apparently that's
Well, yeah,
my
please
pink
do
slip
it.
of diagnosing. Um,
I'll
I
download
think.
it. Like, how does it manifest? How does it manifest in people? Like, and maybe they think these are good things, but actually they're
Mm.
perfectionist things, and they need to listen to you.
If you're always looking at what you have yet to achieve more
Mm,
so than you are achieving or you have achieved so far, that's a sign of perfectionism. Again, it's that future focused thinking.
okay.
If you are ending your days only looking at what didn't get done, again, you're going to notice the theme here. The theme is I'm focusing on lack rather than what I currently have. But if you're only looking at what you have not done, or like, for
Mm,
instance, if you have a to-do list and you're like, oh my God, I started it with 5 things on it and now there's 10 things on it. I'm a
okay.
failure. I suck. Again, going back to that, if you're pushing yourself to 135% and you feel like if you didn't achieve that, you beat yourself up and say, I should have pushed harder. I can do more. I can whatever. Here's a good one. If you
Mm,
suck at taking days off, because if you take days off, the whole business will implode or everyone will hate you. I hear this one pretty often is like, if I take a day off or a week off, it's like, oh my gosh, all of my customers, all of my clients, whether they're through a course or through a one-on-one or a more intimate program, they're going to think I'm not a good coach, or they're going to think I'm not a good teacher. Or they're going to think I don't care about them. It's this all or nothing mindset.
yeah.
I'm either all on 135%. I'm either gunning it. I'm either pushing as hard as I can. I'm either achieving all my goals, or I suck. I'm a failure. I'm never going to amount to anything.
Mm, okay. Now I'm feeling like, shoot, do I not look at my checklist at the end of the day? Like, so where's the balance between daily evaluating how much of what I wanted to get done I actually got done and being too perfectionist about it?
I think knowing that, first and foremost, and this is going to sound really cheesy, but I'm actually going to just go ahead and steal this right from Brene Brown because she's
Do it.
amazing when it comes to talking about perfectionism. When you have the mindset of me just showing up is already enough. Now, I hear a lot of high achievers, when I say this to them, they go, ugh, like, oh God, it's like, oh, I don't really know about that. And I ask them why. And I'm like, what makes you so uncomfortable hearing that? And they say, well, if I do that, if I have that mindset, I'm going to be mediocre. I'm going to be complacent. I'm not going to continue pushing myself as hard as I can because that's my entire
Mm,
personality. So the line really is knowing that you, at your core, as you go through your day, whether it is successful or a effing failure day,
right.
you are still enough at your core. And that is something that I wish, oh my God, I wish that there was like a 30 minutes to knowing I'm enough, for like, how like Tim Ferriss has the 4-hour work week, like 4 hours till knowing that I'm enough. Like, but that unfortunately doesn't exist. It is a very intensive process to go through that and rewrite some of those limiting beliefs and try new things and delegate and all that kind of stuff, and know when to stop working. I think that's a big thing. Boundaries around work is a huge thing for high achieving perfectionists. But the number one, like the line that we're all looking for is, how do I enjoy myself? How do I enjoy my life? How do I love myself as is, knowing that I can still want more? I can, like, right
Okay.
now, I had a very wild morning. I thought that something was going to take 30 minutes. It ended up taking almost 4 hours. That is very much unlike me. I'm kind of like the queen of productivity in my own land. I have done a lot of research on it. It fascinates me. But old me, old me would have looked at this morning and have been like, you suck. You've thrown off your entire week. How dare you? You're not good enough. How dare you teach on
Oh,
this stuff? Like, you're like, I mean, I
okay.
would have given myself a mental beatdown. But me now, I look at that and I say, okay, took a little bit longer than I thought. I'm still a
All right.
human being. That's fine. I'm just going to move some stuff around in my week. I look at my week. If there's some things that maybe, maybe this doesn't need to happen this week and I could move some stuff over there, like, I adjust. And it's having that grace with yourself to know that I can make adjustments is pretty huge.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Let's talk about coaching calls, something that
Let's do
you
it.
and me are very, very familiar with. And I'm going to throw a problem at you. I'm
Ooh,
sure the
okay.
listener has experienced it too. where you have a strategy call and they always go over. And just to bring you into my mind, like I have like for my business, like Facebook ads and funnel fixing
Yeah.
consulting, I have strategy calls and they go, um, they're supposed to be 60 minutes or 90 minutes. And they do go over, maybe more often than I would like to admit. How do I know if that's time management issue or if it is a subtle sign of I'm struggling with perfectionism? Perhaps I feel that I'm not enough, so I need to give, or maybe I just don't feel that my service is valued right and I need to give extra to do enough. Like, how do I dissect that? How would you dissect that?
I would ask a few questions, and that is when you are done with these calls and you see that they went over, what's the first thought that pops into your head?
Probably my wife is going to be upset
Mm.
that I'm not downstairs cooking like I should be after the call.
Okay.
That so, but once like the personal life, family thought goes past my mind. Next, it's, oh shoot, I'm not going to finish the rest of the day. I still need to summarize the notes and get those to my EA so she can get those out to the client. And pretty much the rest of my week is busy, and I'm not sure how I'm
Mm.
going to make it out of this.
So note that immediately, and this is for anyone who's listening as well, and I want you guys to do this if you have this issue as well.
Hmm.
The immediate thought is, "Oh crap, I'm not enough for my wife. Oh crap, I'm not enough for my VA right now." Or I'm not on the perfect time that I thought I set for
Oh,
myself. Immediately it's lack. What am I lacking? Look at all that I'm lacking. Look at all that I'm lacking and all the ways that I'm not measuring up. Now, another way, and this is what I do because I definitely go over. I have 30-minute discovery calls, which shameless plug. If you're experiencing perfectionism, they're free 30-minute calls. Go to lifecoachbaker.com/discovery call. Wink. But
and we
one of the
will
things
link
that
that up in the show notes.
but when I have these calls and maybe they go, like 5-10 minutes over or something, I used to be like, oh God, like, maybe I didn't respect their time or da 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 da. But whenever I ask people, like, I'm so sorry, like, I think we're going over a few minutes. Is that all right? They're like, oh my God, yes, like, thank you so much. They're overjoyed to be experiencing that extra few minutes because it's for
Hmm.
free for them. I also do mega coaching on these calls. So I should probably mention that they're not just like telling them about my services. It's like, hey, like, let's get you next steps. But it's immediately from a place of service. It's from, let me
Okay.
go above and beyond for you.
Hmm.
Now, if it is experience, if you're thinking like, oh, this might be a time management thing, then what I would do is I'd do an audit of those calls. I would look at, okay, how long do I spend doing the small talk or the, like building rapport? How long do I spend doing that? How long do I spend telling them about my services? Do I over explain because I want to show them I have so much value to give and it's almost too much? Because that's a huge thing in perfectionism. We call it people pleasing as well. And then
Oh,
there's
shoot.
also wink, wink, hint, hint. But then there's the closeout. And how long does that take? Because sometimes in the closeout, the client or the potential client is either they're on board, they're ready to like sign, seal, deliver. Give me the invoice, give me the contract, let's go. Sometimes they're like, you know what? I need to think about some things or I need to talk to my spouse or whatever it is. And sometimes they're like, nah, I'm good. And being able to figure out, okay, which category does that client fall into and have a closeout for each of them that's snappy and quick and gets them to the next action as quickly as possible. So I would
Hmm.
say look at the audit of those 3 sections of the call and see where are you over explaining, where are you taking too much time, so on and so forth.
Dang. All right. So I feel like perfectionism is something that pretty much would only affect the type A course creator or online coach, who are the majority of people listening to this podcast.
Mhm.
Would you say that's accurate, or does that
Yes.
also affect? Yes. Okay, it's
I
just
would
type
say,
A.
let me actually say yes, and actually no. Let me go back on what I
Oh,
said. The
okay.
majority, yes. The people who are trying to do it all, who have the checklist, who have maybe the, the funnels, the perfect emails, all that kind of stuff. Yes, it definitely can come from there. But I've actually talked to a lot of people who, let's say I'm someone who I have 5 courses. I have 5 more course ideas, but oh my God, they're all overwhelming me so much that I'm going
Yeah.
to stick to what I know and these ones that I am currently running, but I know I can do more. I know I can be bigger. I know I can play at a bigger level. So for those types of people, that actually is almost from a place of a procrastinating perfectionist. It's I want to have these other 5 things in my life, but I have such high effing standards. I don't know how to go after all of
Oh,
them at once because that tends to be a pattern of perfectionists and high achievers. I don't know how to go after them all at once. Well, shoot, I'm just going to stick to what I know because I'm a big neuroscience person. I think knowing how our brain works is fundamental to the work that I do. And
good.
that is our brain is always on the let me keep Nicole safe. Let me keep QUAY.jo safe. How do I do that? I stick with the things that I know will keep me alive until the next day. This goes way, 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 way back to when we were living in tribes, we were living in caves, we were facing off with saber-toothed tigers on a regular basis. Our brain would always say, what's going to keep this person alive today? What's going to keep this person alive today? And let me do that. We now call that the comfort zone. So, for example, let's say
Uh-huh.
you have this idea for this. Maybe you want to do a summit version of your courses, and it's going to, be live. It'll be in person. It's going to
Mm.
be a really big event, and you have such high standards for yourself. So it has to be perfect. It has to be like Tony Robbins, Jenna Kutcher level. All this kind of stuff.
Oh, no
Yeah. Well,
pressure.
no pressure at all. We're great at not putting any pressure on ourselves as high achievers. Absolutely. But if I have that, but it's so far out of my comfort zone, my brain is going to put all the alarm bells up and say, whoa, 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 whoa,
Hmm.
stay with what's comfortable. And what's
Hmm.
comfortable might be the courses that I'm currently running or making another course at the same level that I can reach similar customers instead of playing at this really big level that I know I'm capable of. So I don't remember where I was going with this, but that is
I mean,
that
it's
is
all
also a big
signs of
sign of perfectionism.
perfectionism that because you said they don't actually just affect type A folks. And so I think you were starting to talk about how it could affect other people, other personality types in their business. Maybe. So, I mean, I have a course idea right now, um, because a lot of people that listen. Okay, so the art of online business. We're on this podcast, right? And I can see that people love the episodes where we're talking about Facebook ads, and that is my business as a Facebook ads manager. But then I realized I have what 17 clients at any given time, and there's how many people listening to this podcast? I mean, the stats say like 130 something thousand in the last month downloads.
Hey.
So how can I? Hey, um, still just a small itty bitty podcast, but I'm like, how can I help those people? How can I help that listener? Well, I probably can make a course that teaches them how to run the same kind of lead generation campaigns for their business because it's ultra important that I run for my clients. But Nicole, it's like every day to day operation things pop up, everything pops up. And that course should have been made like a month ago. And here we are. Actually, I am literally trying to figure out this Friday how to go to this episode is being recorded on September 5th, just for
Mhm.
context for you, the listener. But I'm trying to figure out how to go to an undisclosed location where I can get rid of the distractions that I tell myself
Mhm.
I have so that I can make this course.
So, one of the things that I do a lot is when I'm first talking to someone and they're
Mhm.
telling me about their goals and they're frustrated that they haven't made it happen yet, I
Right.
ask them, is this goal on your mental to do list? Almost like, if there was like a line item, make this course. I don't know what the title or the working title of the course is, but like make this course idea that I have. And when we have that on our mental to do list or physical to do list for that matter, that is way too big. So when our brain sits down to
Okay.
try to make time for it, even, it's like, whoa, that is way too big of an action item. So
Mm.
I look at this as if any goal that we're wanting to achieve is what I call an Everest goal. It's a level 100 goal. We're here at level 0. We're going to do easy math. I was not a math major. I studied music, for crying out loud. So if I'm here at level 0 and I'm going to level 100, and that's where my goal is, and let's say this is a 3 to 6 month goal or even a 1 month goal or something like that, there's steps 1 through
Mhm.
99 that need to
Mhm.
happen. But when we only have level 100 as, okay, I just need to do that, we're going to get overwhelmed or we're going to procrastinate By the way, that's a huge sign of perfectionism is procrastination. Just saying.
Ah. Ooh, okay.
I think we might as well just call this episode QUAY.jo's Perfectionist.
Right? Try not to
But
cry here. Try not to cry. Okay.
but as we're going through this, instead of saying, okay, maybe it's Friday afternoons, I'm going to work on this new course. That is overwhelm city. Our brain sits down and we have no idea what to do in the next hour until we really think about it, or even the next 3 hours, however long of a chunk you have blocked off for it.
Mhm.
But if I look at steps 1 through 99, like let's say, QUAY.jo, you're here right now, you're at level 0. Again, we're going to make it easy math. What is the first step that needs to happen in order for you
Yeah.
to make this level 100 happen? First step, and it's tiny, teeny tiny.
Oh, outline the course.
Great. How long would it take you to outline this course?
Yeah,
Roughly.
if I did a brain dump into an Excel spreadsheet, honestly, maybe 15, 20 minutes. I already have it inside of me. I just need to, put it on
Do you
paper.
have 15, 20 minutes at some point in your week this week or next week?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Stop thinking, and this is not just for you, this is for everyone. Stop thinking
Right.
only level 100 or bust. You
Mm,
got to chunk it down. Again, I didn't mention this. I call these 1 through 99, I call them milestone goals. So we have
okay.
Everest, we have milestone goals, which are the much smaller versions. And then if that milestone goal, like let's say for instance, it's have a first draft of the course written, then we need to chunk that down even further into what I call one sitting tasks. So it's Everest goal into milestone goals into one sitting tasks. The one sitting tasks, much like they sound like, are tasks that we can do in one sitting. One of the things I see a lot of people do is on their calendars, let's say, they'll have um, I work with a lot of people who design their own websites. I have a lot of very techie people in my space. They'll say like work on website, and our brain is just like, mm-mm, mm-mm. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to do that in one sitting, but write first draft of about me page, that I know how to do in one sitting. We got to be more specific, and that's what gets rid of the overwhelm, which by the way is a huge reason why we procrastinate is overwhelm. So it gets rid of the overwhelm. It allows us to get into action, but allows us to also, and this is just like the little neuroscience nerd in me, if I see on my calendar, okay, outline first draft of about me page, edit first draft, design homepage of website, if I see all these little tasks, my brain's going to start calculating, oh, look at how much I've done. To circle this back to what we were talking about many, many moons ago, aka 15 minutes ago, when we're thinking about all the things we're not achieving, all the things we're not achieving, it's because we're only looking at level 100 or bust. But when we look at 1 through 99 and even the teeny tiny steps in each of those 1 through 99
Wow.
steps,
Wow.
our brain starts to shift to look at how much I've done because it sees all the little teeny tiny things. It's cool shit. It's cool shit.
Yeah. Jeez. So I got another question. I got plenty of questions, and there's not going to be enough time for them on this episode. But I have another question that I think works for this episode too, which is actually a coverage to say it works for me. It works for me. It's all about me right now. But can you share what this looks like? Like somebody who you've helped, a case study, if you will, who struggled with perfectionism and then kind of dramatically changed the course of their business or the types of things they were trying to develop in their business after they realized it was themselves. It was their, let's
Mm.
call it their perfectionist self getting in their way. Like, what's that look like for you? I'm super curious. Like, I just love helping people and
Yeah.
myself. And I wanted to know what that looked like for you, like helping somebody through that transformation.
So I have a client. She's a big, big, big YouTube influencer.
Okay.
And when her and I first started working together, she is approaching a retirement age. She's really ready to step back and retire. But
Mm.
when we first started working together, she was doing almost everything herself. This woman has just shy of 1 million, if even just over 1 million people in her space. and she
Dang.
was doing
Okay.
everything herself. She was
No.
constantly saying, okay, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. And they were all actually like little mini courses and courses that she wanted to create for her community. And she had no idea how to find the time to do them. She really wanted to start taking days off and had no idea how to make that happen. She was
Hmm.
accepting anything that came into her inbox sponsorship wise, even though she was at a level where she definitely did not need to be doing that anymore. Flash forward a year, her and I have been working together for about that long. She
Okay.
now takes Fridays off. She and I have a plan for retirement for her.
Like that?
We are also looking at, she also now has what I call day theming, which basically means every single
Huh?
day, it's called day theming. It
A
basically means
theming, like a theme
if
park.
I'm like, a theme or like this, like a theme, like if I'm going to a party and the theme is dinosaurs. I don't know. I don't go to parties very often, clearly. But that's my kind of party right there. It's dinosaur themed. But
So,
so
how about a white themed party where we all get elegant in white suits and dresses and
ooh, like
stuff?
white tie. I dig that. I dig that.
Those are
Um
fancy.
I love a theme where I can get dressed up. That's again the theater kid in me.
Mhm.
She loves that. But
Okay. All right.
so day
So these theme
theming.
days for your
So
client.
what it means is basically she was previously waking up Monday thinking of everything that she needed to do that week, all the courses she wanted to create, the YouTube videos, the social media posts, the blogging. And on Monday, she was like, oh my God, I have so much to do.
Mm.
So what her and I worked together on is now each of her days have a theme. So like Mondays are, social media and like personal errands. Tuesdays are YouTube. Wednesdays are personal projects, or excuse me,
Oh.
business projects. Thursdays are blogging and community management, and Fridays are off. And because of that, she now knows, okay, on this day, I wake up and I know I need to get camera ready because it's a Tuesday and I'm on YouTube today. So that alone reduced so much of the stress. It reduced so much of the
Wow.
busy work that was not helping her. Another thing we worked on, and this is actually a perfect example. We were we were in a coaching call, and
Okay.
she was saying, I just feel so overwhelmed. I feel like I can't get into flow state. That's a huge thing I also work on with my clients. And she was just feeling really frustrated. And I asked her, I was like, would you mind pulling up whatever screen is open for you right now? And would you share it with me? We were on Zoom. So she shares her screen. And I kid you not, in like, how you can see like all the tabs open whenever you're on a screen right now? I feel like I'm about
Yep.
to call you out with the face you're
Dude,
making right
I'm
now.
I'm
She
I'm about
had
to stonewall you and block you out. I'm not showing my screen. I don't care. All right.
she had like 37, I can't remember the exact number, but it was like an obscene amount of tabs open. And I asked her, I was like, how do you think that's helping? And she's like, it's definitely not. Because she'd be working on, let's say, like a YouTube outline. Are you counting the amount of tabs that you
I'm
have?
counting. Keep going. Keep
Oh my
going.
God. So let's say like
Oh
she's working
man,
on a
if you're
YouTube
watching,
script,
you
and
can
then
see
she
me
looks
crying
up
right
and she sees that she has a Slack notification. Oh,
now.
great.
Mhm.
Our brain gets a hit of dopamine because, ooh, I have a notification. Hooray. So we're, not very intelligent when it comes to our brains and automatic behavior, especially provided by dopamine. So immediately we need to go over to that tab. Oh, great. My VA needs something for me. Oh, I know this is in my email. Okay, I go to my email. Oh my God, I have so many emails. Oh my God, I need to message that sponsor. Oh my gosh, I need to make sure I'm not, conflicting my schedule or my calendar for posting. And and it was like boom, 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 boom. And here's the crazy thing. When we are in a state of flow, so when we're in that state where everything's flowing really easily, everything's creative, it feels like it's just effortless almost. And
Mhm.
we even get one notification or slightly distracted. I'm talking like a text message comes through on your computer, or your watch buzzes, or you see
Or
that Slack
WhatsApp
notification,
beeps. Okay.
or
All right.
WhatsApp beeps, and you don't check it. You just see that you have a notification. It takes you 23 and a half minutes on average to get back into flow state. Guess what we in the
No.
21st century do not have anymore? Patience for
No.
23 and a half minutes. 5 minutes will go by and be like, man, not feeling it anymore. You know what? I'll put this off until tomorrow. And that happens all the time. All
Hold
the
on.
time.
Hold on. You're saying if I hear, not even if I look, if I hear WhatsApp beep at me,
If you
um,
hear and internally acknowledge it, I'm not talking like you need to acknowledge it,
okay,
like picking it up. If you hear it and you're like, oh, I have a notification,
but I
it
won't
takes
look
you
at it.
you won't look at it, but you still have, oh, I have a notification. Your brain is taking, because it was fully focused, and
Dang
it
it.
is enough to move it away. So I'm a big believer in do not disturb. Big believer. Now, obviously, within reason, I have
Yeah,
a husband, and if he's needing me for whatever reason, like, I want him to be able to come through on my do not disturb. He knows,
sure.
however, that when I'm in the zone during my days, unless the cat is on fire, we don't even have a cat, unless someone is on fire, unless it is a very important thing, don't text Nicole until the end of the day. And we have this mutually, by the way. It's not just like me being like, stop texting me, husband, you suck. Like, it's a mutual understanding. But
Okay,
like,
okay, yeah, yeah, I feel you.
almost everyone else is on do not disturb. Now, because I have my day in blocks, like if, for instance, I have a do not disturb time for um I'm actually working on a mini course for this month. So if I have do not disturb time for working on my mini course, I would then, at the end of that time, check my phone, because I have Voxer communication with my clients. So they have access to me at any given moment. So I would make sure that everything's good in the hood over there. And then, great, everyone's good. Okay, I'm going to go back into another session. Do not disturb turns back on. So it's like, you have breaks during the day where you like get up, you go get some water. Like, you're not just like a robot where you go flow state for 8 hours straight. You actually can't even do that. Our brain doesn't work that way. But you have to let yourself get into flow state. Have to.
Hmm. Okay, so I'm thinking now, the listener probably has a few questions, so we're gonna rapid fire this. First of all, day theming sounds good, but what about all the day-to-day operations in my business? I can't just properly neglect those to 1 or 2 days of the week.
Correct. So for
What do you gotta
instance,
say
like,
about that?
the day themes are very broad spectral. So like, for instance, this influencer client of mine, she every single day checks her email and does community management for like YouTube comments and stuff like that, because she responds to everything herself.
Okay.
She does that every day, but she has a section at the end of the day when she is not her
Mm,
most creative, her most focused. I call these prime hours. It's not her prime hours. It is
mm,
when, towards the end of the day, when she's wrapping up, okay, I'm going to check my email. Great. I'm going to check YouTube comments. Great. I'm going to do that. Done. So just because her day was YouTube, it doesn't mean she only did YouTube that day. Da, 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 da. Like, it
okay.
instead means like, okay, this was definitely the theme of today, but there's still going to be other things that we do. Like, we can't check our email once a day, or excuse me, once a week, as much as you can. Actually, I'm going to go back on that. You definitely can do that. I personally just don't run my business that way. I do check my
Okay.
email once a day, however, and that means the rest of the day it is off. Because again, if I get a notification, if I get that email come through, I'm going to lose my
Mhm,
flow state, and I don't want that to happen. So
mhm.
the day themes are really just a broad spectrum theme, but you can have little individual things that are repetitive tasks, but just do them in a time, in a certain time. I would just say block time away for them, rather than just like, oh, I'll do this whenever, because then we can lose our flow state.
All right. Before I ask the next question, it's the moment of truth. I have finished counting the tabs, and
Oh my God.
to my defense, I do have 3 monitors, so there's not all these tabs, and I can still see some words in some tabs. Those of you who are listening who can identify me with me, if you're watching the video, comment in the YouTube comment section like how many tabs you have opened. Nicole, I counted, it is 53 tabs. You guys
That's amazing. That's a
go to the
record.
website to watch this video. You have to see her face right.
That's a record, QUAY.jo. That's a
And this is a good
record.
day. Like I said,
Wow.
I can still see like the first 4. The internet
Oh,
hiccuped.
I can hear.
That was that was a blip. Where were we at? You were crazily laughing, and I was going to say it is a good day. I can still read the first 4 letters in each tab, so it's not as bad as it could be.
That's optimistic. Is what that is.
um,
Interesting. Now, here's my
yeah.
deal with monitors, because a lot of people do have a lot of monitors. I myself even have 2 monitors. They're like, oh my gosh, do you
Okay.
just focus on one monitor? There's one monitor that's in the front of my vision. So the one that I'm staring at you on, I have
Mhm.
one tab open on this monitor. That's it. Nothing
I
else.
have 4.
Now, on 4 is better than 50 something. Like, I'll give you that. But then like over on this side, I have my calendar open, and that's just to make sure I'm kind of staying on schedule throughout my day. So that's really all I have open at any given moment. I have the thing that I'm focusing on and the calendar open, so I'm making sure that I'm staying on track. Now, for instance, like let's say I'm working on a podcast outline and I need to use, I do a lot of like scientific backed up research and stuff in my podcast. So I want to, go on Google Scholar and make sure I have the right article that I'm quoting or whatever it is. I will still go.
And okay,
What?
yeah.
Oh, I was going to
No,
say, I'll
I'm
still
going to come
go.
back and ask what Google Scholar is in a moment, but you still
Ooh,
go.
Google Scholar is my favorite. So
Ooh,
I go in, I have that, I see the link, I highlight the section, I bring it over to my tab, and then when I'm done with it, I close it out every single time. Because if I don't, I can be in the middle of writing my podcast and like look up and say, "Oh, there's that article. Ooh, did I make sure I quoted it, or
oh,
did I make sure I read all of it?" And always do. But like, oh, did I check that other thing? And it just immediately opens up all of these different things that can distract me versus the thing that was the task at hand. So
right.
one tab as much as you can, one tab. Now, does that mean you can't minimize tabs and like put them off to the side? Of course you can. Like I have some tabs minimized for something I want to go back to later, but it's not in my direct line of sight.
Shoot. Okay, well, enough confession from me. The next question that I'm sure at least 63 listeners are asking is, but I'm a mom, and
Mm.
how does this work with kids, multiple kids, trying their best to pull my brain in every direction? And I can't even relate as a man, but I can say
Mm.
that the reason I even have only 53 tabs open and a semblance of a business is because my kids' brain destructive activity is directed at my wife, and she
Mm.
deals with I just saw a meme, not a meme, a little video on TikTok today, completely random, but it was like this: every time a kid said mom, then the mom like got down and did a push-up in the kitchen, and it was like, how fit would moms be if they did a push-up every time one of their kids was like, mom, mom, mom. That's how my kids sound. Okay, so what does
Oh
a
my God.
mom do? Um,
So so I have a sister. She has two incredible kids. I love them so much. And she asks me this question pretty regularly.
okay,
And you do have to get more creative. I'm not going to say that you're going to be able to have an 8-hour stretch workday and be totally fine if your kids are 2 and 3. Like that's just we're realistic here. Here's what I do see work really well. When, for example, like let's say my kids are, I don't have kids, but my metaphorical kids are old enough where they understand, okay, mom's working and
hmm,
she needs some quiet time right now. I've seen people have, those little like door hangers, like it's over the door hanger. It's like,
for like
it's from like
owls.
not towels. It's like it's on like the handle of your door. It's almost like a oh my God. It was such a like an early
Oh, like a
2000s thing.
hotel deal. Like, don't clean my room door hanger.
Yes, exactly like
Okay.
that. But one side is red and the other side is green. When let's say mom needs or dad or whoever the parent is needs, a solid 45 minutes just to get this one sitting task done. They really need some focus time. They
Right.
can put that red on and have the kid know that like, okay, when this is red, do
Hmm.
not come in. And I've seen that work really well with a lot of my parent clients. Now, obviously, kids are kids. They're going to burst in because they're so excited. They have something to share. Mom, I just took a poop and it's amazing. Oh my God, you need to come look at it. When that happens, grace, 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 grace. I'm not a mom and I still get distracted sometimes. I've been studying
Hmm.
productivity for 5 years and I still get distracted. It's just part of the human experience. So, another thing I would say is, have those boundaries. Like maybe your partner is able to take the kids for 2 hours, like
Ooh, okay.
solo on a Wednesday afternoon. And during that time, make that your very clear. I'd make sure your one sitting tasks are so crystal clear. And that's what you're going to do during that time. You need to get creative and you need to schedule it. You need to ask for help. You need to put boundaries up. Like you need to do things different rather than just like,
Mm.
maybe it'll happen during nap time because then it won't. We'll scroll through our phones for 2 hours and be like, oh my God, where did nap time go? You have to be creative. You have to set yourself up for success. And it does take a lot of trial and error. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not easy. Not at all. There's a reason I'm not a mom yet. But when you get that rhythm, when you find that like perfect cocktail of what works for you, hold on to it for dear life, because that's what it is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Moms are super happy now.
I love you, moms. You're amazing. Thank you for all you do.
I love you, wife. I couldn't literally my kids if I didn't have her. Wow. Just wow. Like my kids are inventing things after they ask for mom. Like they didn't even have something they needed. They just got her attention, and then it's like they're talking, but you can tell like there's nothing that's just going nowhere. Okay, so because we need to finish this episode, where can somebody hear more from you, get help from you, and just help discover let's call it their hiding perfectionist? That's kind of
I like that.
Pinocchioing from behind the scenes and keeping them from achieving all they should be achieving in their business.
I love the Pinocchio perfectionism. The hiding perfectionism. I love that.
I'm just giving you all these sorts of
That's
names,
good. I'm taking that.
right?
You're listening to a podcast. I also have a podcast. So I am at Imperfect Success on any podcasting platform you are currently listening on. Most likely it's on there as well. And I talk about perfectionism, high achieving, productivity, goal setting science, neuroscience, all of the above, but it's never in like a very scholarly scientific way. I really like to make it in a very approachable way, because that's how I like to learn as well. And then if you want a little more one-on-one support, like I said, I have those free 30-minute calls, and you can go to lifecoachbaker.com/discovery call. And it's really, really easy. Just sign up for a time on there.
Cool. Lifecoachbaker.com/discovery
Lifecoachbaker.com.
call. That will be in the show notes. And if you've made it this far in the podcast, we know that you're in for a special treat. So I got a question for you, Nicole. Final question. Take me to a spot in your podcast and business development where it was hard, where it was a bit dark, where it was like, I am the Grand Mighty Poobah perfectionist coach, but good Lord, I don't know if I can make it like another 2 weeks. Take me to that spot and take the listener to that spot and just kind of talk us through like what got you through.
I'll actually, I like to get vulnerable. I like to get raw. It's part of my embracing imperfection journey. Last, what would that have been? July, not this past July, but the July prior. So 2022. My husband was unemployed.
Okay.
He had lost his job. We just moved to Colorado, and we were living with my parents. And I was in a really dark spot, not only personally, because I was 28, I was living with my folks. I was literally about to explode. It felt like my husband was unemployed. It was really, really hard. But also, my business was not growing. And it was to the point where I was like, what am I doing wrong? And I was asking that question every single day. What am I doing wrong? Which, by the way, is a terrible question. It produces terrible answers. Don't ask that question. And if you do, I recommend changing it. So, and what I changed it to really is one day I had just like this, like, for lack of a better term, come to Jesus moment of just like, you're playing small. That's what you're doing wrong. You're playing small. Stop playing small. What do you need to do? And I'm not going to lie, it didn't come to me right away. And I think that that's really important to note, because we hear about these like overnight success journeys and it's like, oh, I suddenly made $1 million. Look at me. I'm amazing. That didn't happen right away. It was a few weeks really. And I started just like getting out of my comfort zone in random ways during the day. And eventually I raised my prices and I started doing more online group programs. And I hadn't really done that before. And basically in that following month, the business started way picking up. I started attracting clients who I was like, how in the God's given hell did you find me? This is amazing.
Wow.
And in about 6 months after that, my email list had doubled, my income had doubled, my podcast had well over doubled. And just like all of these different things were just growing like
Mm.
crazy. And it's because I made the decision to stop playing small. And I still have to remind myself that pretty regularly. Like when I get comfortable in the business, like when I'm noticing I'm going through my week and I'm like, oh, what an easy week. What a lovely week. I kind of stop and I'm like, like, how we doing? Do I need to get out of my comfort zone? And note it's not, I need to get out of my comfort zone so I can play bigger. It's, do I need to get out of my comfort zone? Or is this just an easy week and I can let myself have an easy week? So that was a rough time. And to finish out the living situation, we, in several months after that, my husband ended up getting a job. It was an awesome job that got him into a whole new market that he's now thriving in. And we ended up moving to a beautiful, beautiful place that I now overlook a lake in my office, which I never thought I
Whoa.
would say that at 29 years old. So that was really, really cool.
Whoa. But
Yeah.
he was unemployed and you were at your in-laws' house.
At my parents, so his
Um,
in-laws.
he was unemployed and he was at your parents' house?
That is for personal reasons that I will not say on a podcast.
That is no,
But
that is
yes.
fine. I'm just, like, thinking as the husband who has experienced that
Mm.
before, that must have been super hard.
It was. I'm not
Unless
gonna
you
lie.
did.
It was not
Yeah,
a great, like, I love my parents. They're wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful people. We weren't married at the time. We were just engaged and we just got actually married this past June.
I
And
remember.
we were,
Congratulations
yeah, thank
again.
you. Very, very
Yeah.
newlyweds. But um it was a really dark time for us. We were not let me actually rephrase that. We had to learn how to be each other's support systems in a
Mm,
way that I never thought I would need to learn that. And I'm glad we did because I'm very much like in a, ooh, if we can handle that, like I know how to handle hard times with you now. And I do think, like, looking back, it is massively a blessing in disguise. It allowed me to figure things out in my business with very low stakes, with no
yeah,
rent. It allowed me
right.
to, learn how to communicate with my now husband. It allowed him to really play big and try new things out in a career field that he did not study in school. He did not work in prior, and now he's almost 2 years in. So it's like, or year and a half in. So it really it opened up so many doors. So if anyone's going through a hard time, I just want to kind of say, like, for now is not forever. Things change. Life is ever changing and you will get out of this coming on top. I believe that fully.
There we go.
Mhm.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. I
You're welcome.
it's a mission of mine. Like, yes, this is the art of online business. However, it's a mission of mine. Like, in every episode that I ask someone like you, the person who I'm interviewing, that same exact question because I want this to be the episode, the podcast that I needed
Yes.
personally, selfishly, when it was so hard that I just was going to stop. Like, not to say a curse word, but go find a job.
Yeah.
There. See, I did swear, and I don't like to swear. Um, and not just anyone, but just one that could make ends meet, you know? And so, like, I
Yeah.
wanna make sure that I'm asking that.
Well, and
So
I want to talk to that for a second because another
mm,
time in my business was I was working 3 jobs. I was a bartender in Chicago, I was cleaning yoga studios, and I was also working at a tech company, and I was building my business. I was
huh,
working well over 100-hour work weeks. I was
wow.
exhausted, and I did it for the time that it needed to happen. Would I ever wish that on myself again? No. But if I needed to go get a job at Whole Foods or another tech company or something like that, like I could do it. It's not a big deal, but we have it in our head that, like, if that happens, we're a failure. If that happens, we didn't succeed or we didn't push hard enough. And to be quite honest, there is a little bit of that in my head, but I don't really
Yeah.
feel like it's part of the journey. As entrepreneurs, we live a very inconsistent life and we got to embrace that as part of the roller coaster.
So this could be a whole nother episode. We're gonna stop here.
Okay.
We're gonna stop here. Um, now we're gonna pause, and then here's what you're gonna do, Ken, and whoever's editing the audio podcast is I'm gonna wrap this up with a go to the website, the art of online business perfectionist.com/motivation to hear or see that, let's call it the motivation section of the episode. So that part from where I asked Nicole the question up till we took that pause will not be in the actual podcast. It will be its own separate section. So now I'm going to close it up. And what I say from right now will be the official end of the podcast.
That's so smart. What a good idea. I love that.
I'm just trying things, will that last another
Throw
10
spaghetti at the
episodes? Who
wall.
knows? But we're just trying things. So here is the official end of the podcast. You guys, what Nicole just shared was amazing. And if you want to hear what she shared, go to theartofonlinebusiness.com/motivation, where you can hear from her, from the heart, what was going on and how she got through it. Because this part of the podcast, it's meant for me, really. It's meant to help the past me who just needed to hear from successful online entrepreneurs. I needed enough motivation to get me to the next day, to keep me going when it got super dark. And quite frankly, I may not have made it another week without hearing somebody else who went through it and an uplifting mini story from them to help me keep taking the strategic steps that I knew to take. So theartofonlinebusiness.com/motivation. Thanks for listening. Until the next episode. Bye.